All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, here with Bob Rose. How's it going tonight, Bob?
Exhausted and angry, just like the rest of the fan base. But other than that, pretty good. How about you, Alan?
Oh, I've seen better Tuesdays. I'm not angry about the way that game played out from the standpoint of I didn't expect to win that game.
No.
You look at the injury report, there was no way they were winning that game with those kind of injuries. I mean, you're starting or you're playing a center that you signed on Friday. You got Landon Young at one guard. You've got Patrick. Well, no, I'm sorry. Patrick was center because he had to go in and replace Salvadori, who was playing guard.
Yeah.
And that Chris Jones, his favorite thing to do is find the weak link in the offensive line and go after him. And that's exactly what he did. When it was time to take over, he took over.
Yeah.
The frustrating thing was there were opportunities to make plays to make that game closer, and they didn't get it. A lot of stupid mistakes they made. Olave bouncing on a third down instead of setting his feet for a second to get the penalty, the illegal motion penalty. Tipton dropping that beautiful fourth down pass that really ended up it's going to cost Carr a couple games. They sent an all-out blitz, and he hit the one guy who was going to be open, and he drops it, and Hemisphere, it was a JV team versus a varsity team last night. That's why the Chiefs have been in 2 Super Bowls, 3 in the past 4 years, and they're probably going to be the first team to three-peat in the Super Bowl era, because I really don't see anybody that can beat them. And don't tell me the Ravens. It's frustrating too, because even if they were healthy, I think they could have given the Chiefs a better game than they did. I expected them to lose, but I expected a better game out of them.
Yeah.
And you just didn't get it. I mean, what are your thoughts, Bob?
Oh, God. And I mean, it's interesting, Hemisphere, that you use the word exposed, because that's the exact wording of the title of my article that'll be published in the morning. The day got out of control for me quickly today. I couldn't publish my recap today. But yeah, I mean, exposed was my exact thought. I mean, I know so many people want to blame Dennis Allen or want to blame Derek Carr, or want to blame the injuries, but it's so much more than that. This defense, who I grant you, they were without Pete Werner, they were without Willie Gay, but they had DeMario back. Their secondary has been intact all year, and you're getting ripped apart by Juju freaking Smith-Schuster, for God's sake. And you give up 460 yards to a Chiefs offense that hadn't had a 400-yard output in 15 regular season games. And they did it without their top 2 running backs. They did it without their top 2 receivers, and they did it with major issues, at both tackle spots, but especially the left tackle spot for Kansas City. And the Saints couldn't take advantage. This game, frankly, I agree with you, Alan, that there were opportunities for a better team than the Saints to take advantage of. But you could also see, you could have also seen the Saints lose this game by 40 points. The Chiefs had 5 trips in the red zone where they didn't come away with a touchdown. One of them where they didn't come away with a score at all on that miraculous interception by Saunders. Offensively, again, you're exposed. Well, yeah, defensively, again, your secondary is intact and has been all year, and you're getting ripped apart. You can't get Mahomes on the ground. When he ran because he wanted to. Because it was easy for him to. He made it look easy, for him to escape pressure. Look, it's not a crime to give up plays to Patrick Mahomes. He's a pretty damn good quarterback. It is a crime to give up plays to McCole Hardman, a very raw and inexperienced Xavier Worthy, Noah Gray, Carson Steele. I mean, these are guys that are practice squad players and would be for the Chiefs if the Chiefs were totally healthy. And you're making them look like all pros. On offense, the shuffling of the offensive line just about was the kiss of death from the start. But I mean, Carr looked shell shock. He looked like a rookie that was in shell shock, almost from the start of the game. Your coaches, your coaching staff, from head man all the way down to water boy, was completely outclassed. And you coached in fear. So if you coach in fear, you're no doubt going to play in fear. This game, to me, almost felt decided on the opening kickoff when the Saints won the toss and elected to receive. That right there tells me you are afraid of Patrick Mahomes, and you know that you can't contain him. And, from there on out, it was just an unraveling.
Well, and I feel like they knew they couldn't win that game. They came into that game hoping to hit a couple big plays, hoping to make it a game. But I think he just looked at practice and said, this team ain't going to do it. They make too many mistakes, and they're too under-talented. And I know people hate hearing me say this, but they really are. They're under-talented. This is what happens when you draft poorly. This is what happens when you spend money on aging players because you drafted poorly. They just don't have the answers, and they knew that. They knew that going in. We're missing. We don't have a third receiver. They tried to do something with Tipton because all they did was they bracketed Olave and took him completely out of the game. And they matched guys up on Shaheed with the idea of, okay, we might give up a big play, but our offense can get the ball back. In fact, when the game was 13-16, you could see the Chiefs say, all right, it's like a pool hall hustler. That's the comparison I had in my Good, Bad, and Ugly.
Yep.
Pool hall hustler saying, yeah, I'll let you think you're going to win this game, but 4 plays, boom, there's a touchdown. And no screwing around with double reverses and pitchbacks and things like that, almost that would have cost them the game if they were playing a much better talented team. But the other thing that I'm saying about this, it's not like the Saints are, I don't know, the Browns or the Panthers or, one of those teams. They're not devoid of talent. It's just they're one of those teams. They're one of about 20 teams out there. And I saw a bunch of them out there on Sunday with no Saints game. They're the Seahawks, the Giants, the Jets, the Bears, the Packers. They're those teams, teams that have a couple of good players, but just don't have a shutdown guy. They don't have a defensive lineman like a Chris Jones who decides, you know what, I'm taking this game over right now, and does it. I have to give Chris Jones credit. He did the Mean Joe Green tilted stance that was designed to shoot the A-gap. And he knew it because you're playing against a center you signed on Friday, who's out there. Landon Young just was a turnstile.
My God,
yeah. I mean, and he's looking at this going, I got this guy and this guy, I'll put Kelsey. I'll find a way to get Kelsey matched up against Anthony Orgy because he's a special teams guy. He's not a starting linebacker. Demario Davis, I got to give it to him. He's out there playing, but he's just not. He was not healthy. You could see it. The explosion was just not there. Hemisphere, I'm telling you right now, I'm watching these games. There's a lot of bad coaching out there too. Mm-hmm. If you watch that Buffalo Houston game, if Dennis Allen would have done what Sean McDermott did with Buffalo, the fans would have been at the airport waiting for the Saints, but not to cheer them. They were waiting to kill Dennis Allen for that.
Yep.
3 consecutive passes out of your own end zone in a tie ball game that burned off about 10 seconds. So you punt out of your end zone. So the Houston Texans, I almost said the Oilers, the Houston Texans can kick a field goal to win the game in regulation. My God, that was horrible.
What did the Saints do with their last drive of the first half? Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And I've said this to people before, and I've made Bills fans angry. Well, made some Bills fans angry. I've made others agree with me wholeheartedly that Sean McDermott is Dennis Allen in cold weather. Sean McDermott is Dennis Allen with a Josh Allen.
A better quarterback.
Yeah,
potentially an elite quarterback. Because Dennis Allen Josh Allen has to win games basically by himself. I watched some of that Jets Minnesota game.
Oh God, that was awful.
Yeah, that's why Robert Saleh got fired today.
Right.
The Seattle game was terrible. The Bengals, throws 5 touchdown passes, still loses the game. It's the 2014, 2015, 2016 Saints over there, and you're wasting Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, because you really can't run the football, and your defense is trash.
Yep.
I don't care how much they're paying Trey Hendrickson. The defense is trash.
When Trey Hendrickson is what Cam Jordan was in 2014, 2015, 2016.
Yeah, exactly. They couldn't get to Lamar Jackson. They needed to, and then all he did was just turn the ball loose to King Henry, and he's just steamrolling people. I'm not trying to say that Dennis Allen is a great coach or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is, you're just going to get another Dennis Allen more than likely. You're not going to get another Sean Payton out the box. There really isn't another Sean Payton out there right now. I don't see it.
No.
You look at McVay over there with Los Angeles Rams. They have about as many injuries as the Saints do. Their whole offensive line is trash because they're all beat up. And they're 1-3, I think, 1-4. They're finding ways to lose those games too because they don't have Nakua, they don't have Cooper Kupp. The offensive line is beat up. I don't think they even have their running back. It's just they're just not. Is McVay a bad coach? No, McVay's a very good coach, but McVay's on a team that. He's paying for those championships. He's paying for trading away all those high picks because you got a team that's wafer thin, just like the Saints. So I'm be glad to move on from Allen if I knew there was a guy out there who was head and shoulders better than him right now. I just don't see it.
Well, and I think we've had this conversation before several times this offseason. It's irrelevant, and you know this, Alan. It's irrelevant to have it now, folks, because follow these words very closely. The New Orleans Saints will not fire Dennis Allen during this season. So whether or not you want Allen gone, deal with it, because you got at least another, what was this, week 5? You have at least another 12 games where you're going to have to put up with it. So we don't need the Facebook posts. We don't need the Twitter rants about, they need to fire DA. Save it till January. Because you're giving yourself carpal tunnel by typing it, and you're wasting your breath by saying it. It's not going to happen in the next 12 weeks. That's not the way the Saints do business. It's just not.
Well, and unfortunately, you're giving Allen the excuse right now that they're going to sit there and say, well, look, in the first 2 games we were fully healthy. Look what we did against Carolina and Dallas. I mean, granted, you played 2 bad teams. You played the Panthers and a really, really bad team. But, I mean, that's what he's going to point to. And when these guys start coming back and you're playing the Cleveland Browns and you're playing, teams that are not very good like that on the schedule, they're going to make that same run they've made the past 2 years. And it's going to be, Mickey's going to be like, look how we rallied back. Look what we did. And he's going to tell that to the public. But I think personally, he's looking at it as, we got another year of this bad football because we're not spending money on the cap. We're trying to clean up our cap. We're trying to get on draft picks. We're trying to rebuild this core team. So we're not going to turn it over to a new coach. We're going to let this guy finish the rebuild and see what he does with a rebuilt team where he's got cap room. It may not happen if they don't rally back when people start getting healthy. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe they do say, you know what, we're going to pull the plug on this too. And, hire a new coach with the idea of you're going to probably be struggling for a while. Hell, Mike McDaniel may get fired in Miami. Yeah. That's a guy I could see. Okay. He looks like Napoleon Dynamite, but he's a guy I would be like, okay, that's an upgrade. Yeah. I would take McDaniel, know. I don't know. Yeah. Anna, I had the MASH thing in my head the whole day because, like I said, I expected them to lose that game. And I was just thinking, how can I work MASH into this? Because that's what they are, a MASH unit. And each week I'm just like, oh, another injury, another guy hurt. And it's people complaining about the soft tissue injuries and the pulled hamstrings and things like that, saying, it's a bad training staff. Right. It's league wide, guys. Yeah, it really is. We mentioned the Rams. Look at the 49ers injury list. Yeah. They're 1-4 too. Look at Philadelphia's got a pretty lengthy one. Look at Miami's injury list. Just go through the league, what it is, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this too, Bob. What it is it's become such a speed game. And I've been equating this to those car crash dummy shots they show. This is what happens when a car hits you at 20 miles an hour. This is what happens at 30. This is what happens at 40. And they show those dummies bouncing around and the glass going everywhere and stuff like that. To me, that's what it is. You've got guys, so many guys out there now who run sub 4.4s. Mm-hmm. Somebody actually timed Fat Boy at Football, Colin Saunders, running back that interception. And they said he got up to 15 miles an hour. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a long time since I ran 15 miles an hour. A long time. A guy who weighs over 300 pounds running that fast. Now imagine what happens if you're a 4.4 receiver and a safety gets the angle on you and just tags you in the ribs. Legal hit, what that impact must feel like. Yeah. And I've been complaining for years about the baby shoulder pads the pulling the pants up over the knees, the light, small pads that guys have on. You know, I mentioned the Houston Oilers earlier. You go old school, 1970s football, 1960s football. Look at what those guys have on. Go back to the 90s even, and the size of the shoulder pads. You know, Brian Cox with the thing behind his neck, you know. They used to wear the big padded gloves over their hands and knuckles and, you know, arm pads all over the place. The Raiders used to brag that they had guys that could make casts out of the pads, and they would do that at halftime and before the kickoff. So, you know, you could, like Phil Filippiano used to always like, get a guy right under the eye, you know, give him a good shot in the eye, and now now he's out, you know, that kind of thing. You know, using the pads as weapons. You don't have that anymore. Franco Harris with the huge hip pads. You don't see that anymore because it slows players down. They want to make it as light and as thin as possible to maximize their speed. And to me, I think that's why you see so many injuries, the kind of injuries we see. I mean, get your thoughts on that.
No, that's definitely part of it. And when I was an athlete, I wore as little equipment as possible because of that same mentality. I'm like, okay, my game is speed and quickness. Why would I want to wear something that, at least in my head, will slow me down? So the players are aware of that, and you're seeing all the hamstring epidemic year after year. Well, think of how much these guys are playing in preseason. Usually very, very little, if any at all. Training camps, they're not going nearly as hard as they used to. And I know I sound like an old man yelling, get off of my lawn, but that's fact. And I realize that most players keep themselves in phenomenal condition, with their workout routines and things like that. But it's a far different animal when you're actually put out onto the field of competition. And this isn't just football, it's baseball, hockey, volleyball, whatever else. The game itself moves at such a high speed that you cannot duplicate that, no matter how good a shape you're in, no matter how crazy your workouts are. And what happens, then you get the pulled hamstrings, the pulled thighs, those kind of soft tissue injuries. So you don't blame it on the training staff. You can point to the training staff to things like, this guy's not getting back on the field in a timely manner. That's when you maybe point to the training staff or the individual players, workout or rehab routine. But these kind of injuries early in the season, no, it doesn't. Between a combination of what you said and the combination of what I just said, you put those two things together, and it's not surprising that you have 3, 4, 5 people on every single team's injury report every single week. DNP did not practice. LP limited practice. Hamstring, quad, thigh. Those are all soft tissue injuries, and those are all the results of what you said and what I said.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then some of the other ones, Taysom Hill, bruised lung, cracked ribs.
How are you going to blame the training staff?
Yeah, you can't. You really can't. I mean, that's just taking impacts there. Same thing with Alvin Kamara. He's got cracked ribs. It's just, and the thing that hurts about these injuries is when you don't have the depth. And we talked about the Rams and giving up all those first round picks. So they could build a championship, and they'd make all these trades for these great players to make that one run. When you don't have younger players behind you that could come in and step in and take over because you're not drafting well, then you're reduced to undrafted free agents. You're reduced to guys you're pulling in off the street, not a second round pick, like the luxury in our case, Kool-Aid McKinstry coming in. for say an injured Marshawn Lattimore. You're not seeing that. You're seeing instead when Will Harris went out, you've seen Jonathan Abram come in. You're only young draft pick on your entire defensive line is Brian Brzee. You have a free agent in Chase Young, but you've got an undrafted free agent in Carl Granderson, and you've got two older free agents in Kalen Saunders and I always get the two of them. Saunders and Sanders. Shepard. Thank you. I can never keep those two straight. I know the teams they play for. One came from the Chiefs, Saunders. The other one Shepard came from the Jets.
Yep.
I know that, but I always confuse their names, and they don't look anything alike.
No.
Just one's a fat boy, one's a tall boy.
But I mean, but to your point, there are two more high draft picks. Isaiah Foskey can't get on the field because he's no good. Peyton Turner, he had his yearly sack last week, so he's back on the injured list this week. When you don't draft well like that, you have no depth. What happens when Demario Davis goes out? Pete Werner is overwhelmed. Davis comes back limited, very limited. I think that was clear. You pointed that out before we went on the air. But you're without Werner, you're without Gay, but you haven't bothered drafting linebackers any earlier than day 3 for the last few years. So you have undrafted special teamers like Anthony Orji or day 3 picks, special teamers like DeMarco Jackson coming out there. It's a house of cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, that's the problem with the team. It's not that they're not talented. It's just their talent is very small. It's a very select group. And if you start losing those guys, that's when you're in big trouble. You can afford to lose an Anthony Orji. You can afford to lose, DeMarco Jackson or, Nick Salvadori. You can afford to lose those guys if your starters are playing. And your starters are playing well. You can't afford to lose them when, your starters are out and now you have to rely on those guys. Those guys aren't healthy. So now you're relying on street free agents. It's just, you can't survive that way. You really can't. And it's tough because this team started out so well, and this is the exact thing that Dennis Allen talked about in the offseason, in the beginning of training camp. I'm not interested in people raked him over the coals for us, but he said, I'm not interested in starting out on fire. I'm interested in this month and next month, October, November. How do we do? I don't think we're going to do that well, honestly.
No.
So that leads us to the next topic of conversation. Here we lose our starter, at least for a couple of weeks, with an oblique injury. Derek Carr is going to be out. Who's going to probably start this week? And do you think that there's going to be a chance that it's just a battle to see who had the best week of practice and gets named the starter?
As far as the latter part of what you said, I think the only way it would have to devolve to get to that point, because if your starting quarterback is determined by that, then you have no starting quarterback. And it's literally a disaster. I'll tell you, we did publish a Saints News Network roundtable on exactly that topic. John Hendricks, Kyle Mosley, myself. I saw that Jimmy Gumbo. I just laughed.
It's off the practice squad. We can sign him right back if we needed him.
Right. But Kyle, John, myself, put together a roundtable article, based off who we think should be it and who we think will be it. And, two of the three of us thought that Rattler, because of his upside, maybe should get the call. But all three of us said that we felt that Haener would get the call. Now we're hearing some different things tonight that maybe Rattler is going to get it. And I would expect Dennis Allen and Clint Kubiak, if he's asked, to be very coy about it, to try to keep it under their hat as much as possible. To me, I think that's a mistake. Both of these guys are highly inexperienced. Whether you're a Haener guy or a Rattler guy, you got to be worried because both of these guys were mid-round draft choices for a reason. They both had some promising moments in preseason and training camp, but they also showed why they were mid-round draft choices, if you ask me. I know it's easy to fall in love with Rattler's physical tools, especially that arm. I felt like Haener was going to get the call because he has a very, very slight, razor-thin edge in experience. He was in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference in experience. But it was enough for DA or Clint Kubiak, whoever made that call, where Jake was Derek's backup for these first 5 weeks. But now we're hearing things that Rattler could be a guy, that's good, could be the guy that's going to get the start. I hope that Clint is smart enough to know that you can't split reps between these two guys leading up to a big divisional game.
Yeah.
You have to make your decision right now. It had to be made today, if you ask me, even if they're not public with it. It had to be made today, so that way you can get these guys as ready as you can. Film study, game plan, etc. So we'll see how smart these coaches are.
Calvin asked if Kubiak has fizzled out. I think Kubiak's down to the point of trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yeah.
His whole offense is wrecked because the offensive line is wrecked. You can't run your running plays, your wide zone stuff with just crap in the middle and Alvin Kamara playing with cracked ribs. It's just so hard to do. If they make the decision to go with Rattler, and I'm kind of like you, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, you know what? We're going to play Rattler only from the standpoint of I think he's physically bigger, and I think his mobility is going to allow them to run more bootlegs away from the pressure. The difference is, though, it's not going to be you're not going to be playing at South Carolina versus University of South Alabama. You're playing an NFL team. Guys are not going to be open. You have to throw them open. How well he has the offense down and how well he reads defenses that are actually disguising things. That's a huge gamble. And this is what you had to worry about with, actually, I was going to go into this next. I'll go ahead and leave this up right now. But this is what you have to worry about when you have guys with limited or no NFL starting experience as your primary backups.
Yep.
This was my fear when they didn't sign somebody like a Joe Flacco or someone like that. Joe Flacco, I think it's funny he's wearing number 15 for the Colts because I keep seeing Earl Morrall.
I know.
And Earl Morrall was the old man with the Colts. I just think it's funny. Yeah, just certain numbers do that for me. Yeah. Whenever I see a quarterback wearing a 12, like for the Raiders, I'm like, oh, Stabler, or 16. Oh, Plunkett. Yep. I see 17 guys wearing 17 out there on certain teams. I'm thinking, oh, Steve DeBerg. I was shocked that Carson Wentz is a backup on the Chiefs. When I saw number 11 walking around, I'm like, who the hell is that? And I see Wentz. I went, oh my God, I didn't know he was still in the league. Right. So, yeah, I'm the same way, Calvin. In fact, my daughter dropped the F-bomb when she saw that too, because she's like, and I hope they she didn't say shut the hell up. She said shut the F up. It's a tough thing. So the only way either Rattler or Haener are going to survive is, does Kendre Miller make an appearance this week? I think they chose not to play him because it was going to be a short week, and they didn't want a setback.
I think that was part of it, and just like we talked about before, about these guys coming in hot into the regular season. The starters are being expected and asked to play 4 quarters of top speed football after they may not have gotten a single rep during the preseason. A guy like Kendre Miller, who's I think it's safe to call him pretty fragile at this point. You don't need you don't need a setback in a game that realistically you probably weren't going to win with or without Kendre Miller. So I didn't expect Kendre to play. I heard he had a great week of practice as far as he was out there and stayed out there. So for Kendre, that's a great week of practice. But
he has such a low bar.
right. Yeah, and listen, you sat with Brendan and I on draft night. I was a big fan of this kid coming out of TCU. I still am as a player, but now just like everybody else in Who Dat Nation, Kendry's going to have to show that he can stay on the field to capitalize on that promise. But I do think he makes an appearance this week. Don't think he's don't expect him to get a high volume. I mean, this offense is still going to be run through Alvin Kamara unless Kamara's dead. But Kendre, depending on his conditioning, and that's going to be the major issue. Kendry's probably going to get at least 8 to 10 touches, maybe 12 to 15 if his conditioning is up there.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I said it last week. I felt like this season survival, with scary thought that it is, that the season survival is Kendre Miller coming out and having a breakout season. Because you can't run Kamara this way. You tried running Taysom Hill a lot, and we learned what happens when you use too much of Taysom Hill. He's a great weapon, but he can't take that punishment, especially at 34, 35 years old. But I love watching him play.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to have that young guy step up and really make an impact as an offensive weapon. A.T. Perry, Jimmy Gumbo mentioned A.T. Perry going over to Denver on their practice squad now. Perry was the guy I thought he was going to possibly be that third receiver because he was the guy that showed up a little bit at the end of last year. Yeah. You thought that he was going to take that step forward. He never did. And this offense is worse because of it.
Yeah.
Mason Tipton, nice project. He's probably a year or so away from really contributing to this team. He's not going to be Rashid Shaheed 2.0. He's not going to be Deontay Harris / Hardy 2.0, who those two players had an impact as rookies, undrafted free agent rookies. And that's a problem because you needed him to be your third receiver. If he beat out A.T. Perry, he's got to be the guy, and he's not.
Right.
Cedric Wilson's a non-factor, So it's, yeah. Well, I'll say this about Lance Moore. Lance Moore actually came in 2005. He came during the Katrina year. So he had a couple of years that he got to grow.
He did.
So he had his breakout year in 2008.
NFL, allocated to NFL Europe somewhere in there too?
Maybe so. I don't remember if NFL Europe was still around in 2005 or not. But yeah, he was a guy though that kind of really, I didn't like him at first too. He used to drive me nuts when he'd be back there returning kicks. I'm like, he's slow. He's slow. He's driving me crazy, And Lance Moore was just that guy that kept working at it. So by 2007, 2008, now he's catching everything. Now he looks like a dependable receiver. So yeah, it's but yeah, my wife used to make fun of me in 2006 because I'd say, "That damn number 16's out there again. Get rid of that guy." So, yeah, I don't think I think he beat out A.T. Perry just because A.T. Perry didn't win the job. I think he won it by default. I think A.T. Perry just didn't want it, and that's why he's not on the team. Yeah, king of the first down, fall down. Who used to blow me away with his ability to fall forward? It was always Pierre Thomas, another undrafted guy.
Yeah.
He would spin and he would let guys bounce off of him and slide off of him, and he'd always fall forward.
Yep.
It was just an amazing technique that I just didn't see guys do. And that was something that, he used to describe his running style as just ugly. I'm like, no, it's beautiful, because you fall forward. It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah, because I'll tell you, if this team needed 8 yards for a first down, Pierre would get 8 1/4.
Yeah. Yes, he would, because he would get hit probably about 6 at the 6-yard mark, and he'd spin and lunge a fall forward for the final 2 1/4. It was just an amazing thing that he would do. Yeah, I've been watching too much of old Saints footage, and I'm just watching Pierre Thomas and the execution of the screenplay, and it was a beautiful thing. Don't watch the 2011 season. Just don't put it on, because you're like, oh my God, how good were we?
Yeah, it literally makes my heart hurt.
Yeah, 3rd and 15. Oh, no problem. We'll convert it. 17-yard pickup. just a simple play. We're going to run a screen pass on 3rd and 20, and we picked it up. So, real quick, going back to the Kansas City game. 2nd and 34, 3rd and 22. 2nd and 34, I could kind of forgive, because you're just trying to keep guys in front of you. 3rd and 22 shouldn't have been made, but they run a hook and lateral kind of play that Marshawn Lattimore got completely blown out of. That's the kind of stuff that drove me nuts. Just tackle him. Bring him down. Bring him down.
As soon as 2nd and 34 happened, I looked and saw real quick where they were on the field. And I said to myself, because everybody else was in bed, so I talked to myself. I said they're going to get it, but I thought for sure it would be because of the Goodell goons. I was waiting for a cheapy flag.
Hey, look, they kept their flags in their pockets a lot during the Chiefs game. A lot of things that hurt the Saints because of it. Right.
Instead, the way the Chiefs got it almost made me angrier. Because that lateral that you're talking about, that was a microcosm of how undisciplined Dennis Allen's defenses are. And I'm not blaming it all on Allen. These are on the players too. Making business decisions. I talked to Anthony Adams, former defensive tackle of the 49ers and Bears, reaching about 15 years back. Talked to him and Mark Ingram earlier today. Brief interview Kyle Mosley and I had, and I asked Anthony. I said, "Look, because the subject of the Chiefs game came up." I said, "Look," I said, "I want to ask you something." I said, "We always talk about how you need to contain mobile quarterbacks like Mahomes and things like that. You got to contain them. You got to keep them in the pocket. You can't let him break containment or make plays with his leg." I said, everybody says how that you should do it. Nobody asks how you do it. And, so I asked him, and, he went on this, 5-7 minute explanation. And then he said at the end, he goes, "I don't know if this really helps you or not." I said, "Actually, it does," because he's talking about A gap containment, B gap containment, edge containment, and he goes, "Too many guys want to play hero ball."
Yep.
And all you have to do, if you have a good team defensive concept, then if everybody stays in their lanes, everybody's going to get a chance to make their play because guys and athletes are so good now, that they're always looking for a cutback. So if the guy's not right in front of you, if you stay in your lane and stay disciplined and hustle, chances are the guy's going to come back to you. But if everybody goes boom right in onto the ball, all it takes is a decent athlete or an athlete with decent vision, and they're going to wiggle out of that. And they're going to make a play when they do. And he goes, I don't know if this helps you. I said, actually, that helps me a lot. Now, I mean, I know what I'm watching, and you do the same thing, Alan. When we do shows like this, when we ask guest questions like we do, it's to try to educate the average fan, the novice fan, that they need to do this, but I'm not sure how they go about doing it. So that's a more technical answer. But yeah, I mean that play in itself, and how many times did Mahomes escape last night? That's just a microcosm of how undisciplined the Dennis Allen's defensive system is, and and how undisciplined most of these defensive players have been for years now.
Well, and I was going to say, so I watched the Manning broadcast for the Monday night game. I watched, they had Bill Belichick on the first half. They had Paul Rudd on in the third quarter, and they had Archie for the fourth quarter. But the Bill Belichick part was really, really good. I really enjoyed that because Belichick kept saying over and over and over again, you've got to maintain your gap. You cannot let Mahomes get out of there. And he was basically saying the same thing. He wasn't using the term A gap and B gap and C gap, but he was talking about gap responsibility. And you hit a big bullseye when you said hero ball. The Saints, too many Saints players are freelancing and playing hero ball to try and win the game or make the big play because they feel the pressure of having to do something. And when they do that, when they give up those lanes, that's how Mahomes is getting out. That's how you have Will Harris knocking out two other players on a 3rd and 16. That's how you have guys guessing and jumping routes and getting burned, guys running wide open because they're not staying where they're supposed to be. Why was Kelsey getting so open? Because they weren't staying in their zone. Kelsey should have been coming right into a linebacker when he was trying to cross. But what did you see? You see Anthony Orji and Demario Davis right next to each other. That's not supposed to be that way.
Nope. The Chiefs had 251 yards after the catch last night. That is ridiculous.
They abandoned man coverage, basically, Calvin, because they were picking the Saints apart with man coverage. So they tried to play zone, and Kelsey was picking them apart with zone. They were running all those misdirections and counters and things like that, trying to pick off the Saints running man coverage. Here's a good example. So on a 3rd down play, I think it was the pass that went over Will Harris's head. Not Will Harris's head. I think it was a linebacker. I think it was it might have been Alontae Taylor. I don't remember who it was. We kind of lobbed the ball, and it was a play Will Harris got hurt on. He lobbed the ball to Xavier Worthy. He caught the ball and ran for like 15 yards for a first down. Well, what happened on that play, the guy playing Mahomes actually played the right way. He tried to stay in the passing lane. Mahomes kind of backed up. Then he went after him. What's supposed to happen is your teammate is supposed to come up behind them, either a linebacker or the cornerback, waiting for the lob, waiting for the pass to the receiver right there. There was no one there because it was undisciplined. That's the problem with this team. And because of the injuries and because you're so thin on depth, Allen's not holding these people accountable by saying, sit your ass on the bench. I've seen enough. Until you learn to play in my defense the way it's supposed to be played, you got to sit on the bench. He can't do that. Sean Payton used to do that. Payton used to do that, but Peyton also had guys he could go back to. You know, he had when he said I've seen enough with Charles Brown, that's because he had, you know, Teron Armstead on his bench. He knew that.
Well, but Peyton would also, guys like Osama Young, would get playing time because the guy in front of him would piss Sean off. Now, eventually, Osama would find a quick seat on the bench too. But that's where you talk about Dennis Allen not holding players accountable. There are some positions where you can't do that. I mean, you couldn't sit Anthony Orji last night because who the hell was going to play linebacker?
Right.
But Paulson Adebo, I know Saints fans are down on him hard. Guys, he's in a slump. He is playing extremely poorly, but he is still a decent football player. If this was Sean Payton's team, Paulson Adebo would have been on the bench before last night.
But you would have had Kool-Aid McKinstry out there playing. Exactly.
Or even Rico Payton for a couple reps. Rico Payton might be Osama Young or slightly better. He's certainly no Paulson Adebo. But that's a position where Dennis Allen, he can make an example to the rest of the team, and he's not doing it. Do you think DA is dropping a potential chance at potential ball here by not doing something like that?
I think it's not in DA's nature. That's the problem. I think he thinks it's just a matter of teaching, and the guys are trying, and he admires them for trying, but the hero ball is costing them games. The hero ball is weakening and making this defense worse, and it's just a matter of you've got to make these guys, and they've been doing it for too long. Like you said, this has been this way. This goes back to the Sean Payton era. Mm-hmm. Hero ball in 2017, 2018. Marcus Williams missing that tackle the way he did because he made the big hero play on what was it, first down in the Minnesota game where he jumped and made the big interception that helped get the game to 17-14. But there's just too much hero ball going on here where guys are so desperate to get to that quarterback and knock him down that they're abandoning their gap responsibility because they all want to meet the quarterback. They all want the sacks. They all want to make which Cam Jordan just now making the sack. They all want to make the big, I got him. And it's just, it's not disciplined enough. And I think it comes down to overexposure of players on media, social media. Everybody's going to analyze it. And then the 24/7 coverage of football where, your highlights get replayed over and over and over again. So that gets you money, not NIL money, but it gets you paid because that's how you get the Pro Bowls. That's how you get the recognition because you're on the highlights every week.
Yep.
I'm thinking about, Micah Parsons, and it's not a knock. Micah Parsons is a good player.
Yeah, he is.
But Micah Parsons, for a while there, was being compared to Lawrence Taylor.
I know.
And he's not Lawrence Taylor. There was only one Lawrence Taylor. And believe me, I saw Lawrence Taylor in person, but I've also watched Lawrence Taylor over the years, the highlight machine. And can you imagine some of these guys playing in today's league with NFL Network and 24/7 coverage, the internet and everything else, and you are watching Lawrence Taylor highlights over and over and over again, not just on Sundays, not just when NFL Films does a special on Lawrence Taylor and the Giants. That's what's kind of happening here.
Yeah.
So I think it encourages that hero ball.
It's so bizarre because 20 minutes ago we were talking about the Saints don't have enough individual talent on offense. Teams contain Kamara, Olave, and to a lesser extent Shaheed, and that offense has nowhere to go. It's the exact opposite on defense. There is individual talent everywhere on all three levels. DeMario, Lattimore, Chase Young, among the best individual players at their position. Alontae Taylor, Rasee. Last year at this time, you could say Adebo. Rising stars. Granderson. Individual talent everywhere, but the team concept on this defense has not been there. And I like Dennis Allen as a defensive mind. I always have. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
This defense can make plays. We've seen them make plays, but when the game is on the line, when you're that's what is, like you said, that's what's getting them in trouble. They're playing hero ball too often. They want to come up with that game-clinching interception, so they could celebrate it, as the Boom Squad or whatever they called themselves back in 2017, 2018. I forget what it was. I have a T-shirt too.
Squad.
That's
Squad.
You make that game-saving intercept. No, guys, knock the ball down. That gets you the win just as much. It doesn't get you on a T-shirt, but it gets you the win.
Right. They're trying to make the big sack to end the game because there's nothing that people love better than get a sack to end the game. Instead of just playing gap defense, don't let the guy go anywhere. Get your hands up, knock the ball down. There are times where they do play great complementary defense and they do trust their teammates, but it feels like in those close games, the tight games, that's when they make the mistakes because it's someone gambling that this is the play I got to make, to win this game. We talked about the Minneapolis Miracle. Let's talk about, Adebo in Atlanta last week. Let him catch the ball. Wrap him up, bring him down. They've got no timeouts. Just don't let him get out of bounds. Tackle him inbounds. The clock is going to run. They got to run up to the line real quick and spike the ball. Maybe he gets the first. Maybe he gets them in field goal range. Maybe not. It may be a damn fire drill for them to get the field goal team out there, especially if you lay on him. Bring him down and lay down on him for a few seconds. That's going to get them anxious. That's longer. Get the ball to the official. He's got to spot the ball and set it. Just that kind of stuff. Just you got to get you have to think about what's the one thing I can't allow. The one thing I can't allow is for him to get out of bounds to stop the clock. I can't let them do anything that stops the clock, and that's not in their mind. Their mind is, I got to make the play. Oh, my God, he got behind me. I got to grab him. Last week it cost us. This week, Adebo commits that pass interference, and thank God Kalen Saunders makes the interception because they got no points out of that. It was it ended up being a 7-point penalty because the Saints turn around, and we've been bashing the Saints pretty much tonight, but that drive to get it to 13, that was a beautiful drive. Really well executed. They played extremely well, and that was a great play on the pass play to Foster Moreau. He was wide open. The Chiefs had no idea where he was. It was a great play, great movement. I was really happy with that. Blake Grupe, bad hip and all, misses the extra point. How soon do we see the Scottish kicker?
You know what? As soon as he hit the upright, and I think didn't he miss a kick last week too, or
he's missed 2 extra points this year.
Okay,
he's missed 2. In fact, a lot of teams have missed in that 30 to 39 yard range now. They're missing a lot of kicks. People are hitting 60-yarders. But then they're missing the 30 to 39 yarder. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they just can't get this is going to sound terrible. They can't get it up. They can't get the height on the ball right for the short kicks. They're trying too hard to muscle the ball through, and it's just going off. I don't know what it is. I really don't. But there was a lot of missed kicks. There were block kicks this weekend. The Seahawks, they had a chance to win the game. It got blocked. Giants turned it for a touchdown. Again, a low kick. Younghoe Koo misses an extra point, dings it off misses 2 field goals. The first one is 41 yards, or 47 yards, misses it badly, gets it 5 yards closer, misses that one badly, but he hits the 53-yarder to tie the game. It's the long kicks they can make, not the short ones. So do you think that Groupie's on a short leash?
I have a feeling he is, because a couple weeks ago against Philadelphia, when Dennis Allen went for that 4th and 1, and I agreed with the call then, and we talked about that last week. I also felt like at the time, my instant gut reaction was, this isn't a Dennis Allen type of call. I wonder if he doesn't trust Groupie. So I've had that thought in my mind. I've not had talks with anyone, or nothing to confirm it. So it's just a working theory that I'm going on right now. But I do wonder if there's no trust in Groupie. He didn't. I can't remember if Blake missed a kick last week, but he looked shaky on a couple of them. And then he muffed the extra point this week. Blake had some misses last year that made you wonder, okay, is his job legitimately up for grabs in training camp? So I can't believe that Dennis Allen has a lot of confidence in Blake Groupie right now.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how much this plays out, because I know if this was Sean running the team, we'd have kicker tryout on Monday. Yeah. That would be the first warning that he's out there and looking at all these kickers kicking on Monday. You better kick well in practice this week, boy, because I've seen enough. And Sean went through a lot of kickers before and Will Lutz missed a kick, by the way, over the weekend too.
Yeah.
He lucked out with Will Lutz, but for a while there, Sean had a revolving door of kickers. You go back and watch the 2008 season. I think there were 4 kickers that year.
Yep.
Just Sean and kickers were like Sean and defensive coordinators. He would go through them pretty quickly. He had no patience for him. You got one job to do, and you better do it. I don't care how far it is. I don't care about the weather conditions. You just got to make that kick. I don't know. I think we will see over the next few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses a key field goal or misses another extra point. You might see him call up that other kicker and they waive him. So it's a big risk. It's a big risk because if the Scottish kicker doesn't kick well, then where do you go? Because
what's Kai Forbath up to these days?
Oh God, or Shane Graham, or Olinda Mare, Martin Gramatica, the little shit's kicker. Son is playing college football right now.
Oh no!
I know.
Oh no! The next thing we'll be hearing is that there is another Zendejas invasion.
Oh man, Zendejas, Zendejas, and Nickemeyer. I think that was the only 2 kickers that existed in the NFL in the 70s. Everybody had one of the Zendejas brothers, and it was 2 Nickemeyers, including the Saints had the Nickemeyer for a while.
Yes. And
if you looked at the name on the jersey, it said Mike Mayer, but it was pronounced Nickemeyer. So, yeah. Oh, Brent, man, you guys have no idea. Morton Anderson was an oasis.
Yes.
Because you really don't want to think about all the kickers. They asked Archie one time, Archie, how many kickers did you play with? And Archie says, you can't do that to me. He says, I can't remember all the kickers that were coming in and out of this place. because they would that's how it was. I mean, you had straight on kickers, you had sidewinders, they call them the soccer style, that whole bit. No, unfortunately, Anderson does not have any kids out there. Neither does Gary Anderson.
Nope.
In fact, they had Jan Stenerud. I saw him. What was he on? It wasn't the Christmas playoff game, the longest game in NFL history. It was something else he was on, and they were talking to him about it. And Jan looks like he could still kick. You know, he's got all white hair and he's tall and thin, but the dude is still built. He looked like he was a very Nordic looking guy, and or is a very Nordic looking guy. So
he looks like a hockey player.
A hockey player.
Yeah.
I was going to say a skier. He looks like an Olympic skier. He's broad chested, big shoulders, little tiny waist, tall guy, you know. And that's the first thing I thought of when I saw Jan Stenerud. I said, he looks like a skier to me. I don't know. I mean, that's why if you get a kicker and he can make your kicks, you can hold on to him for dear life, because they're hard to find. They really are. Last thing before we talk about the Mighty Blitz, is it time to burn the black helmets? They're 0-4 in the black helmets, and it's an ugly helmet anyway.
Yes.
Sean Payton designed it. It's ugly as sin. I don't like it with the Color Rush uniforms anyway. It's, you know, the punter actually has been pretty good. Calvin asked how the punter's been doing.
Decent.
Better than last year.
Yeah.
You know, he's better than the guy they had. Better than the guy they had last year. He did some rugby style kicking. They tried to rush him. Did a very college looking setup for punts this week. You know, 3 guys in the up back position to protect him. And he moved a couple times and they tried to get a rush on him. And he did a pretty good job of pinning the Chiefs deep in their territory. You know, he wasn't, I wouldn't say flipping the field, but he was kicking like a punter would, like a typical NFL punter does. And he got him a couple times in the corner, you know, just defense let him back out again.
Right. But yeah, it's time to get rid of the black helmet. I mean, first of all, I wanted it to be, if you're going to wear the black helmets, I want the all black uniforms. I understand there's an NFL, some ridiculous Goodell rule about that. So, okay, wear the black helmet with the all white uniforms. Oh, you're not going to do that? You're going to wear them with the color rush? Okay, well, it's ugly as sin, but whatever. And correct me if I'm wrong, with each game they've lost, and they haven't, not like you said, they've not won one with that combination. With each game they lost, it's getting progressively worse too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's time to make that go away. I mean, hell, if Tom Benson is going to make the gold unis go away after just one game, you can make you can make these black helmets go away now.
Yeah. If I'm going to go to a black helmet, honestly, I'm going to a version of the 69 helmet with the gold fleur-de-lis and the reverse colors with the the white stripe and the gold in the middle. You know, it looks like the Saints helmet. It's just, you take this one here, you know, it was the black. This was gold. These were white. This was black. This is gold. So, you know, my Ricky Jackson signed helmet. But yeah, go to that, you know, go to the reverse of this. But I also want them to go to the color rush top with the gold pants.
Yeah, I would like that.
The old, if you got the throwbacks for the black throwbacks for the 67 team, go to the white throwbacks for the 67 team too. That would be a very good look. And the bigger fleur-de-lis, you know, that whole bit. I like that. You know, they only wore that combination one time, and that was in 94 against the 49ers. And that was it. They never wore the white jersey, and it's really the color rush jersey, but it's the white jersey with the gold pants and the black and white stripe on the side. I'd like to see that. Bob, you don't have a Bayou Blitz this week because somebody's having a honeymoon, correct?
Yes, someone is having a honeymoon, and Brendan, Katie, if you are watching, congratulations to you again. I thought about texting you, and I'm like, yeah, no, we talk enough. I'm going to leave you alone. If you are still in Florida, please
Get the hell out of Dodge.
Yes, yes. But yeah, I mean, whether or not you're in Florida or back home, congratulations to you both. And Alan, you're right. We are not having a Bayou Blitz tomorrow. Brendan will be back in time, where we are doing a Sunday pregame, in advance of this Sunday's, Tampa Bay game.
We didn't even talk about this game. I've been having Saints Tampa highlights. I can't say anything until I see the injury report.
Exactly.
What you call it? Anna asked, "How long's Taysom going to be out?" I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know how cracked those ribs are. If he can play with a flak jacket, it's a bruised lung too. I don't know how he's responding to that. I think one of the things they're worried about is they played him too soon when they played him against Atlanta.
I think that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
So they may hold him out all the way until after the Denver game. And that's something else to watch in the injury report, keeping in mind they play again in 4 days after Sunday's game. So some guys may practice this week and then mysteriously not play in the game because they may want to play them on Thursday.
Yeah.
So I think that mini bye, the 10 days, that they are off, I think that's when you're going to see guys come back. So I don't have a good feeling about Sunday because of that. And I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. I know Carr's not coming back until after the Denver game too. And I'm going to be at that Denver game. We got the tickets ahead of time because Drew's going to the Ring of Honor. So,
right.
And Sean will be back. And I thought it was going to be an easy win. Probably won't be now. So we'll see. But in the meantime, thank you guys for sticking with us through this post-mortem of the Chiefs game. It's long season. It's only week 5. And I think they get better once they get healthy guys back. It's just we're going to sit through some bad football until we get some guys coming back. And I'm talking about McCoy, Ruiz, those guys. Until those guys come back, this offensive line is going to be a sieve. And we didn't even talk about Devontae Adams, but with the Jets coach getting fired today and people telling Devontae Adams, telling the Raiders, you're out of your friggin' mind when no one's giving up a number 2 pick, I would not be surprised if they make a move on Devontae Adams. It happens after the Denver game too. A lot of things change after the Denver game because you've got time to make a call. But that all depends if they win one or both of these next 2 games, I think.
Yeah, they drop both, which I acknowledge is a distinct possibility. You're sitting at 2-5, with 2 divisional losses, 3 in the conference. It starts to get that feel of another, same old with Dennis Allen again. Will this season go sideways at that point? I mean, just the fact that we're talking about getting Cesar Ruiz back in a positive way tells you what desperation.
It's Andres Pete all over again.
Yeah,
it's Andres Pete all over again. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to go to the Jets now. That's for sure. Because why would he want to go to that dumpster fire? He's trying to get out of a dumpster fire in Las Vegas.
I think Devontae ends up in Dallas or Buffalo.
Really? Yeah, because a lot of people were asking if he ends up in Kansas City. I don't think
they're not going to trade him to a divisional rival.
And they don't need him. They prove they don't need him. This is we really like our QB room level receivers right now. Kansas City feels like they can do whatever they want as long as they got Kelsey and as long as Mahomes is upright.
Well, I mean, you have other receivers that are making noise that they want out. Romeo Doubs, Amari Cooper. Cooper could be moved from Cleveland. Kansas City could get one of them. I mean, the Raiders are idiotic and dysfunctional, but I'm not sure they're idiotic enough to trade their best player to a division rival. Within conference is another thing, but to face him twice a year, he ain't going to Kansas City. I think Kansas City ends up with another lower valued receiver, and Devontae probably. In fact, I think Devontae ends up in Buffalo. Just a feeling.
It's funny, Calvin. I'm just the opposite on Cooper. I'm kind of like, well, if you give him away, I'll take him. I'm not going to give you much for him. I'll give you a sixth. I'll give you one of my 7th rounders for him. But yeah, I mean, that's a dumpster fire too, Cleveland.
Yep.
That's a really bad dumpster fire. Yeah. Calvin, I'm just holding out for that 17-year-old receiver. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he's a pretty good receiver over there in Alabama. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time under the dome. Good night, everybody.